Hello, everyone. It is Misha Green, DC editor. I am super excited to be talking to you back again home from DC. I know you guys caught me last week from Chicago. And I am talking to James Lavallee and Matt Evans about really important subjects, which is the Comcast RISE program and code Superpowers and all of the greatness that they have going on and how these two are working together. I know, tons of questions. But you all know the deal. Before we get into the nitty-gritty of our conversation, we have to share the live. So I'm going to do that. And while I do that, James and Matt, why don't you guys tell us how you're doing today, how you're feeling? People forget we're still in the middle of a pandemic.
Yeah, we are. Feeling good though, feeling good. Another day. Every new day is a blessing. So I'm happy to be here.
Yep, same here with me. COVID has thrown us a lot of curveballs, and having your little one, for those of you who have kids who are always around, it's been a blessing. We'll just stay there. Well, it's a blessing.
Yeah, no, that's a true statement. When else will you have this much time with a 3-year-old, in my case, to really get to see them develop and grow? From that perspective, it's pretty awesome, actually. But
you guys have got the most optimistic answers I think I've heard since I've been asking that question since last March.
You gotta stay optimistic.
Have to.
For sure. Well, let's talk about the Comcast RISE program, which is a program that helps strengthen Black, Indigenous, and people of color owned small businesses, aka BIPOC small businesses, which we know many have been really affected by the pandemic. And so not only are we here to talk about Comcast RISE, but business in general and how we as Black entrepreneurs are able to stay afloat during this time. I'm saying we like I'm a Black entrepreneur. I am happily employed by somebody else. But indeed, how Black entrepreneurs are able to stay afloat and have access to programming opportunity to be able to do so during that time. So before we get into sort of how Code Superpowers and Comcast RISE are working together, James, can you tell us a little bit about Comcast RISE in general, how it came about, what is it?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me on to talk about this great program. I've been with Comcast for 6.5 years, and I must say that this is the proudest I've been of the company. Leaning into this area and this issue, near and dear to our hearts, Black and brown folks, small business owners, we know we live in the neighborhoods where you see for rent signs now, where these businesses were, and it breaks my heart. These businesses are the backbone of our communities. They're people we know them personally, and we want to see them succeed. So when Comcast made their initial investment announcement in June of $100 million to help Black and brown folks in a myriad of different ways, some of that money went to what's now the Comcast RISE program. And the way it came about was really we looked internally first at which divisions would help or could potentially help small businesses the most. And Comcast Business and Effectv, which is the Comcast, the advertising arm of Comcast Cable, rose to the top. And when we did that, we were like, okay, we got the divisions down. Now what are we going to give them? And so we looked again into ourselves and said, what services we think that these small businesses benefit the most from. So on the Effectv side, which we deal with TV commercials, 3 areas of services that we provide are consultation, potential consultation for winners, where we basically do a deep dive into their companies, look at strengths, weaknesses, and potential for growth, and give that business owner actionable items that they can actually implement to help their business grow. So I always say that these business owners had a great idea and a kernel of an idea and a passion to start their businesses. And sometimes they just need that extra help in how to market creatively their businesses. So creative consultation and marketing consultation is one. For those of you who have a 30-second TV commercial, we offer a media pillar, which actually has a 90-day media schedule, on-air TV schedule, for us to put your commercial out there locally. And then for those folks who don't have a TV commercial creative, we actually create a 30-second turnkey TV commercial for you, and also subsequently give you a 90-day media schedule. So that's from the Effectv side. And then on the Comcast business side, we look at a technology makeover where they do a technology consultation, find out what your needs are, and then basically apply those needs to what they're going to offer you. That could be cybersecurity, that could be Wi-Fi, internet, computers, actual physical computers, and they do that for a year-long program. So, you know, RISE stands for representation, investment, strength, and empowerment. And we look at that representation by trying to increase the representation of these small Black and brown businesses on TV, you know, through commercial spots. We look at the investment that the company is overall investing in these small businesses, the strength through the technology strength that Comcast Business is providing. And then the E with empowerment is really the educational arm of the program, where you get to sign up for a monthly newsletter of information that's out there for small businesses.
Wow, that's awesome and so incredibly exciting and inspiring. I love how you said that you've been with Comcast for 6 years, and this is the most proud you've been in being part of the organization. And indeed, all of the arms to those 4 letters RISE seem very evident in this programming. For those joining in and seeing our numbers growing and growing, again, James Lavallee is VP of Marketing for Effectv, and we also have Matt Evans, who is founder of Code Superpowers. We just heard James tell us a little bit about what's happening with Comcast RISE and Effectv. Now let's talk to you, Matt, about what is Code Superpowers.
Well, first, Misha, thanks for having me. Thanks again, and thanks to James for his commitment to social change, for spearheading, helping to spearhead basically what I consider a movement for economic empowerment. They're doing some really big things to support small businesses. So Code Superpowers, we're a STEM education platform that provides high quality technology enrichment and access to students of all backgrounds. So regardless of family income or social challenges, we make sure that every child has access to technology development. So when I say access to technology, I'm not referring to giving a child a laptop so he can do his homework in the evening. That's important, but that's just the beginning of what our communities need and deserve. What I'm referring to is giving a student or a teen the knowledge to create the applications and the programs that are on those computers that they use to do their homework in the evening, and giving them the know-how to create those mobile apps that are on those phones that they use every night. And you know, our kids are glued to smartphones. So with that, I mean, that's actually a plus when you think about it. We use their passion, we use something they already love, and we use that as fuel to help to inspire their love for learning. So now we have more kids developing mobile apps, animation, video games, flying drones. Think about it this way: any kid that you talk to, if you ask them about the latest app, they'll tell you from the back of their hand. They know everything about it. For instance, on TikTok, they can create the fanciest videos with special effects and augmented reality. If they can do that, they can use that same passion and that same energy to create the actual TikTok program, a better version, the next TikTok, or they can use that knowledge to create an application that tracks vaccine distribution to make sure everyone has equal access to vaccines. There's so much they can do with just the knowledge of technology and the creation and development of technology.
Absolutely. And, obviously, I know that Code Superpowers is something that has been in the works for quite some time, but wow, is it something that's super relevant right now and particularly accessible, I think, for all families, but definitely students who need such an opportunity, such as Code Superpowers to this day. So, James, just going back a little bit, and I want to go back to Comcast Rise and why such an initiative like Comcast Rise is so important, particularly today.
Yeah, thank you so much. Really, two things I wanted to mention is that one, everybody should go to ComcastRISE.com to sign up for the application. And two, this is a multi-year program where we actually award these services on a quarterly basis. So there is a lot of opportunity for folks out there to win, and you can actually reapply. So if you win a consultation the first round, you could potentially win creative and media or tech makeover. The only limitation there is you can't win. If you want a creative and media like Matt did, you can't win a media schedule on top of that after. So that's the only caveat. But I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the fact that it's multi-year and that folks can apply on a quarterly basis. But back to why now. Comcast is, a massive company that's spread across the country, and we are a part of these communities, not in name alone. We don't just have our names on the sides of buildings and the sides of stadiums. Our folks live in these communities, so they see how these communities have been hard hit. We've never seen lean-in before corporately, from our actual employees once we started building this program, where they were like, no, this is exactly what these small businesses need. Because like I said before, these communities are our communities, whether it be in Minneapolis or Oakland, San Fran and Seattle, et cetera. I mean, we're in these communities, and we want to make sure that we're supporting these communities in every way we can that's at our disposal. That's why we think now is the time. That's why it's a multi-year deal. It's not just, one and done. We wanted to make sure that the commitment was strong, it was impactful for these small businesses, and truthfully impactful for the communities, because we're looking at this from a longevity standpoint.
Thank you so much. Thank you for answering that. And again, I think it truly is important to think about that longevity standpoint, because we don't know when something like this can happen again. I mean, we're still very much in the thick of a pandemic that started a year ago. And so to think about this longevity aspect and how to, have access to, such programming, the ability to market a business and the way that Comcast Rise sort of helps train and lead to, I think, is really important. Matt, going back to you and Code Superpowers, I know you've been getting a lot of love during this pandemic, for sure. And I've been seeing some of the cool media spots that you've had from it. Can you talk to us just a little bit about the beginning of Code Superpowers, where you started, where you are today, and some of the necessary pivots you had to make during the pandemic, but also your hopes for the future?
Sure, absolutely, Misha. Great question. So Code Superpowers started in 2018 to address systemic inequities in STEM education. So from that standpoint of our mission statement, we were a perfect fit, I think, with Comcast RISE in terms of what they're doing in the community. So when you look at historically, Black and Brown communities have had minimal exposure to computer science courses at the primary and secondary school level. So naturally, what ends up happening is these same communities end up being shut out of the technology industry simply because of lack of exposure to technology development opportunities at an early age. So really, the line in the sand when you think about inequity in STEM education has to do with having early exposure, because there's nothing unique about the person who creates Facebook or Amazon. There's nothing unique about them that you and me can't do. We can all do it. It's just about being exposed to the creation of technology at an early age, because with that, a child develops a sense of confidence, develops creativity, develops communication skills. So even if they don't decide to go into technology as a full-time career, or as a system engineer or a programmer, these are skills that are useful in any industry, which is why it's so relevant to this initiative that Comcast is doing, that Comcast is leading, because to give someone knowledge and access to resources, you then give them sustainability. You give them something sustainable where they can take care of themselves. They can take care of their families. So with that said, we started out in the Prince George's County area to support the school districts and families directly in that area and surrounding counties. And we quickly, the program, the academy started to spread far and wide. And I think it's due to one main fact. Every parent wants the best for their child, point blank. No matter who you are, where you are, you want the best for your child. And the other key ingredient is that there's underrepresented communities everywhere. So the same issues that the communities in Maryland were facing in terms of lack of STEM education, lack of coding opportunities, those same issues impact communities across the globe. So with that said, we knew that the online hybrid model was inevitable when we first started. So from the inception of Code Superpowers, we had a long-term focus of having an online presence. But COVID accelerated that online growth and basically made it impossible for us not to be focused on our online model, because the schools shut down. So to answer your question, the major impact is basically as schools shut down, so do the providers who support schools and support families. So we basically had nowhere to operate our programs from, because we were physically in multiple schools throughout Maryland, DC, and Virginia. And we also had programs running out of our flagship location in Bowie, Maryland. So when the school shut down, we said, okay, we got to find another way to make sure that we can get the resources out to the students who need them.
And indeed, that's important work. I just have to ask this selfish follow-up because I know that Code Superpowers specifically looks at students 6 to 16, but I know you have a 3-year-old in the house. Is that getting any of those Code Superpowers early?
Oh, you know what? The 3-year-old is actually our kind of like our mascot. She's Code Baby. She's Code Baby. You can catch her on a laptop coding a little heart out. The beauty of it is because I do have a young lady soon to be, she's a little girl, I especially have a passion to make sure that when she is of age, that the technology industry is a more inclusive place for everyone, regardless of your sex, your race, your income level. It's important for us to make sure that equity is on the forefront of our business model, and just from a standpoint of humanity, right? If we're any type of conscious human being, we should want everyone to have equal access to what's going to make their future a better place. And I just add one point. What I see every day with the students that are going through the coding process is they get so inspired that they can see past their current environment. So even if they're in let's say a rough neighborhood where they don't see a future or didn't have a future, they develop that vision of a better tomorrow based on the knowledge that they're learning today. So with that said, it still goes back to what Comcast RISE is doing, because they saw the need to bring the resources into these communities to make it all possible.
Absolutely. And just as you speak more and more, Matt, I know why you were chosen as a Comcast RISE winner. You are so
Thank you.
in the work and passion that you have behind the work. I think is just so important.
Thank you, Misha.
I'm so happy that everyone on our Afro side gets to see it today. But James, tell us a little bit about how people like Matt are chosen to be Comcast RISE winners, and how many winners are there up to this point?
Sure. So we wanted to make sure, again, these owners, these small business owners, entrepreneurs, these folks are working 25 hours a day, 8 days a week. You know
True.
what I mean?
True.
So we wanted to make, the whole process, soup to nuts, as easy as possible for them to apply. The application process is super simple. It's really easy, asks a lot of basic questions. One point is that, you do have to be in business for at least a year to apply, and have no more than 100 employees, because we did want to keep this to small business owners and really impact those folks, in that square space. But, the application is really easy. The way people apply, we do have a third party that does this as their day job. And to the credit of every aspect of the Comcast RISE program, we actually wanted authenticity, right? And we wanted the program itself to not just help externally, but we wanted to help people by creating the program. And I mean that from the creative agency that does the Comcast RISE commercial spots and the creative campaign, they're a Black-owned creative agency. The people who are focused in the commercial are real Black business owners. Like these are, so we wanted authenticity all along the way. The company that we use who actually vets and ends up selecting the winners based on what our criteria are is woman started, and also heavy in the Black woman area and people of color area as well, but they're squarely focused on women entrepreneurs. So we wanted every aspect to not just, invite people to the program, but we wanted to also get people involved with Comcast holistically, because we just introduced to a whole bunch of other divisions this great new creative agency that they never even knew about. And to Matt's point about, teaching people, one of the big tenets that I feel like is extremely important with small business owners in the community, again, the cornerstone of the community, is inspiration. Because truthfully, as kids, we all had our high school job and we were bagging groceries or doing whatever. Well, when that owner is a Black and brown person, you actually might see a different track for yourself, in the future. You might be inspired to be like, wow, I could actually own my own business. I've never seen that before. Mm-hmm. It's no different than when we all saw a Black president. A lot of us didn't think we'd see that in our lifetime. But now, I have a 5-year-old and there's no question. He was like, I could be president. And it was a nice to say before, but it's an actual thing now. So you never know how these small businesses can inspire the future. And again, these folks in the community, when they see these owners, and they could be like, that could be me owning that retail store or owning that small business in the future.
I never thought about the impact that representation has on the small business side. I think that's so important. Thank you for mentioning that, James. So Matt, obviously, I know that this program has been very beneficial to you. You've talked a lot about how Comcast RISE perfectly correlates to the work and passion that you have behind Code Superpowers. What was that moment like when you found out that you were a recipient or winner of the Comcast RISE award? And how have you been able to use some of the benefits that's come from winning for your business?
Excellent question. So when I first heard that we were awardees, that Code Superpowers was an awardee, I was very excited, to say the least. I immediately, I had a good feeling about where this was going, and knowing that Comcast or NBC Universal is the parent company of dozens and dozens of major networks. That alone gives you a sense of support that, okay, this giant corporation is behind us in some way. And then it was just a matter of figuring out what that support actually looked like. And in the process of discovery, I was so pleased with the team at Effectv, at how accessible they were and how accessible they still are, and how willing they are to share knowledge and wisdom and to help direct us in the right path. So they immediately came on board and helped us to create a vision of a commercial, and actually they have it on the air now, and it's going into some really good rotation. We're starting to see results from the commercial, but even before the media engagement, we saw a change in our employees in terms of their morale, in terms of the office culture, and the inspiration with having this type of support kind of spread throughout our organization. So we have meetings about, okay, what target should we hit next? What should we do next? Everyone's so much more creative and excited about tomorrow, and excited about how we can reach more and more students and more schools, because the reality is none of us can do this alone. When you're talking about making big, bold moves, we know we can't do it alone. It takes a village. But together, when we do things together, we can make sustainable change, and that's what this is really about. So we were extremely pleased when we were selected, humbled by the selection, and we're still humbled and excited about where we're going with Comcast RISE.
Thank you, Matt, for answering that question.
Yes.
And speaking of excitement for the future and where you're going, James, what are plans and next steps for the future of Effectv and Comcast Prize?
Well, we're constantly expanding and changing. So one of the new ways in which we're doing that, we added an investment portion to the Comcast RISE program, and it just got launched on March 1st. And it's March 1st through the 14th. There are 5 select cities in which that grant program, which are $10,000 grants awarded to 100 small businesses, BIPOC small businesses in those cities. Those cities are Chicago, Atlanta, Detroit, Houston, and Philadelphia. In regards to growing, that's only round 1 of the investment portion. We are looking at, the next round of cities for probably the fourth quarter of this year to once again do that investment portion and grant portion where it's the actual cash grants for another number of cities. So that is how we're expanding RISE, Comcast RISE program in general. But again, excited about the winners. And to your point, we've had over 2,000 winners, and we've only gone through 2 rounds so far. So each round and each quarter, we're awarding well over 1,100 winners per round. So there is a great chance if you qualify for the program to get an award. So we really didn't want it to be 10. We wanted to try to impact as many people as possible. And again, kudos to our senior executives who really gave the green light. When we came to them and they said, go big and bold, we were like, okay, let's do it. And we said we wanted, over 1,000 a quarter. And they were like, well, how many could we get? And we were like, we don't know. But we knew, and the core team knows, that we're just out to try to help people, man. And that's the bottom line of this program. And so as many people as we can help, as many as the budget would allow us to help, we wanted to push that envelope. And truthfully, to their credit, again, senior management is like, how much more do you need? How much more can we do? Because they're starting to see and get the feedback from these small business owners of the positive impact that we are making across the country.
Wow, that is so exciting. And I love that you said you all are just here to help. We need to hear more of that. Again, it's so inspiring during this time to know that such a huge business like Comcast is here to help small businesses, and particularly BIPOC entrepreneurs. I can't believe that we're past the 30-minute mark and we have all these people tuning in and asking questions and giving their feedback. I'm just going to quickly shout out some of those people. And then I'm going to end off with Matt and asking him a question just to give a little bit more info to our entrepreneurs tuning in. But I wanted to shout out Wayne A. Young, who tuned in and said this was interesting. Judge Wilbur Trammell said, great program. Enjoy hearing this testimony. And Judge has a question. How were the target cities identified for investment funds determined? So I'm sorry, James, you have a quick answer.
Yes. Yep.
So do you want to take that before I keep going?
Yeah, that's an easy answer. We actually just looked. I mean, the unfortunate part is we just let the data tell the story, and we looked at the hardest hit cities within the Comcast footprint, and that's kind of how we judged the first 5 cities up on the docket for the investment portion.
Nice. Thank you for answering that and your transparency. Rachel Humphrey says, as a grandparent, I'm excited about learning more about your 3-year-old model. Yes. Pictures, more pictures. That's awesome. And Rachel Humphreys also says, kudos to senior management at Comcast. And thanks, Rachel, for always tuning in and supporting us. And Todd Perry says, Fort Smith, Arkansas needs this. Maybe soon Fort Smith will be able to get it. But in the meantime, thanks to all those who are tuning in. Before we wrap up, Matt, I do just want to ask you if you have any words of encouragement or advice for BIPOC entrepreneurs that know nothing about Comcast RISE and want to hop in. James already said, apply. So can you, from the perspective of someone who's applied, can you leave us with a little bit of advice?
Absolutely. I would definitely second James's statement. Apply. It's an easy process. And I'm sure he's probably posted a link in the chat. Just go to the link, fill out the form, get whatever information that you have about your business. And it doesn't take a lot. It's a very straightforward process. And what's the worst, that could happen if you're not selected? You just probably learn something more about your business and how to formulate, a response to this type of initiative. But it's an excellent initiative. I would not second guess applying. So definitely do that. In our case, it was, like I said, it was really quick. From the time we applied, we had a response within, I want to say within less than a week. Like in a few days, we had a response. And from there, we just kind of, it was full throttle, full speed ahead. So on the other note, in terms of people, I think someone in Arkansas said they needed, our buddies in Arkansas, you can actually sign up right now to code superpowers.com. The great thing about us being online, there's no limits. There's no boundaries. Wherever you are, you can actually access free coding resources where you can sign your child up right now. And the other thing is, like I said before, I think all parents want the best for their kids. So you don't have to wait for the school to get on board with coding. If your child's school doesn't have a technology program, don't wait. You can sign your child up right now at codesuperpowers.com, and that's probably in the link as well. And with that said, we'll be here to help you. And the goal is to inspire the next generation so that we have more children that are not seeing themselves as victims, but seeing themselves as innovators. And that's really the line in the sand. Who's going to be the creators of technology versus the users of technology? And we're building a generation of creators and innovators. So just hit us at codesuperpowers.com.
Definitely check out codesuperpowers.com. That is something that everyone nationwide, and I guess internationally, correct?
Absolutely. It's interesting you said that. We have customers, we have schools from Canada, the UK, as well as Ghana and different places in Africa as well that are already signed up and benefiting from the program daily.
Awesome. Well, congratulations to you, Matt.
Thank you.
Team at Code Superpowers. James, thank you for all the work you're doing at Comcast Effectv and with Comcast RISE. Congratulations on spearheading this really, really important project. And again, right now, Comcast RISE is open to all BIPOC small businesses across the Comcast footprint, and it's open right now. The investment portion is open to those 5 cities that we talked about earlier, and all that information is going on in the chat, and you can find it online at password.com as well as ComcastRISE.com. And again, to learn more about Code Superpowers, head to codesuperpowers.com. I can't believe we've only been talking 36 minutes. About 40 more questions.
Look, time flies when you're having fun, right?
It is true.
I'm having a blast with you guys. I could do this all day.
I know. You guys have to come back at some point to give us some updates, not only on Comcast RISE and some of the other winners, but Matt, you have to tell us about what's happening at Code Superpowers for sure as well.
I sure will. Thank you, Misha, for the invite. I'll hold you to it.
Please do. Well, thank you all so much for tuning in. Remember, apply to the Comcast RISE program. Yes. I know there's tons of small business owners out there watching, and even if you're not an entrepreneur, go ahead and share this live. It'll live here forever as long as Facebook is around, and we need to make sure that small business owners are aware of such programming such as Comcast RISE and all of the cool things that come from it. Thank you all so much again. We really appreciate James Lavallee from he's the VP of Marketing for Effectv, and we have the founder, Matt Evans of Code Superpowers. We really, really, really appreciate you both. Take care, everyone.
Thank you, Misha. Thank you, everyone at Afro.
Thank you, James. Thank you, Misha. Have a great day.